Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night and heard someone whisper your name? You look around. The room is quiet. Shadows rest on your wall. Your phone shows no notifications. There is no one there. You tell yourself it was just your imagination. Maybe you were exhausted. Maybe your brain played a subtle trick on you in the dark. Now imagine that exact same moment happening 30,000 years ago. There are no bedrooms, no glass windows, no doctors, hospitals, or psychiatrists. There are no medical words like hallucination or schizophrenia. There is only a flickering campfire, a handful of tired people, and endless pitch-black darkness stretching far beyond the edge of the camp. You turn to your tribe and tell them you heard someone call your name. What happens next? Most imagine the answer is obvious. They picture frightened hunter-gatherers pointing spears, calling you cursed, and driving you into the wilderness to die alone. It feels logical because we assume ancient life was crude and unforgiving. But archaeology tells a much more surprising story. One thing mattered above all in the ancient world: keeping the group together and keeping each other alive. And sometimes, people whose minds worked differently were not rejected. Sometimes, they became essential. So what actually happened to people who heard voices thousands of years ago? The answer reveals something profound about humanity itself. For most of human history, survival was a fragile effort. Night in the wilderness was full of real danger. Hyenas laughed beyond the trees. Predators moved silently in the shadows. Every sound mattered. A strange rustle could mean a stalking lion. A missed warning could mean the end of your entire family. Early humans lived in an environment where hypervigilance kept you alive. Your brain was rewarded not for relaxing, but for surviving until sunrise. Because of this, ancient humans were not simply terrified of unusual perceptions. They depended on paying deep attention to everything. And modern archaeology has proven that prehistoric societies were far more compassionate than popular movies suggest. Consider the evidence from Shanidar cave in the mountains of modern Iraq. Deep inside this cave, archaeologists discovered the fossilized remains of a Neanderthal known as Shanidar I, who lived roughly 60,000 years ago. Analysis of his bones showed he had suffered catastrophic physical trauma. A severe blow to his skull blinded his right eye. His right arm was withered, fractured, and partially amputated. He suffered from hearing loss and walked with a painful, permanent limp. By the harsh logic of pure physical survival, Shanidar I should have died shortly after his injuries. Yet his bones proved he lived for decades after becoming disabled, reaching an advanced age of nearly 45 to 50 years old. That simple fact changes everything. It means someone hunted for him. Someone shared fresh meat with him. Someone carried his heavy burdens across rough terrain. Someone protected him from predators when he could not run. The story of Shanidar I shatters our oldest assumptions. Ancient humans were not cold survival machines. They invested incredible energy into caring for members who could no longer contribute physically. And if an ancient group spent years caring for someone with severe physical disabilities, can we really assume they automatically cast out someone simply because they experienced the world differently? To understand how ancient minds processed inner voices, we have to look at another clue left behind in stone. Long before cities existed, humans were deeply connected to symbolism and invisible realms. Around 100,000 years ago in Blombos cave in South Africa, early humans carved abstract geometric lines into red ochre and crafted beads. These objects served no physical survival purpose. They existed entirely within the realm of symbolic meaning. By 30,000 years ago, humans began crawling hundreds of meters into pitch-black underground caverns like Chauvet cave in France. Carrying flickering grease lamps, they squeezed through narrow stone passages into damp chambers where sunlight had never reached. Deep inside, they painted vivid animals and geometric patterns. Anthropologists suggest these caves were gateways to altered states of consciousness. In total darkness, surrounded by heavy silence and flickering firelight, the human brain enters states of heightened perception. When people emerged speaking of encounters with unseen presences, their communities did not dismiss them. In a world shaped by unseen forces, someone who heard voices was seen as standing at the threshold between worlds. This perspective appears clearly in indigenous hunter-gatherer cultures studied by anthropologists. Across Siberia, the Amazon, and North America, individuals who experienced visions or heard voices were rarely exiled. Instead, they were guided through spiritual initiations. In Siberian Evenki traditions, a person who began hearing voices underwent a psychological trial called shamanic illness. The community did not panic. They recognized the individual was being prepared for special responsibilities. Under the guidance of elders, they learned to navigate these experiences, eventually becoming healers and spiritual guides. The community did not ask, "How do we destroy this experience?" They asked, "How do we help this person use this experience to serve the group?" This respect for altered perception extended into early civilization. In ancient Greece, thousands traveled to Delphi to hear the Pythia, a priestess who entered a trance and spoke the words of Apollo, shaping wars and political alliances. In Athens, Socrates spoke openly about his daimonion, an inner, guiding voice. Rather than being seen as insane, Socrates became the pillar of Western philosophy. Over centuries, societal attitudes shifted through medieval paranoia, later arriving at modern psychiatry. Medicine brought crucial care, yet sometimes focused solely on eliminating symptoms rather than understanding personal meaning. Today, movements like the Hearing Voices Network emphasize that the relationship to voices is shaped by culture. Ancient humans understood that difference is not automatically a disease. Human brains today are identical to those 30,000 years ago. The voices have never changed. What changed was the story society created around them. When facing the mysteries of the mind, the best response is not fear. It is deep curiosity.